Hi, my name is Captain Dangerous, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I build a diorama from start to finish, while also answering some very pressing questions that I've been asked over the years. Let's go! So one of the first questions is, where does the inspiration usually come from for a diorama? That can depend sometimes. Oftentimes, I will either pick a figure or have a set in mind and have a figure that will kind of fit with that theme. A lot of times it comes from either photos I've seen or places I've been, or even past experiences I've had, childhood memories, that sort of thing. Are you buying the supplies online, in store? Both. A lot of local hobby shops will have honestly everything you need material-wise, especially building the base. They'll have wood, spray paint, pretty much everything. If you're wanting certain particular minis or things that are really for what you're wanting to feel for whatever you're building, Etsy has stuff. I often will 3D print some things. It really depends. This one didn't have too many things that I really had to order. I had most of it already, and some of it I kind of just made on the fly. But craft stores, hobby stores, really your way to go. What tools do you find yourself frequently using during builds? X-Acto knife for sure. It is a great tool. It's really good for tiny things, really getting in precision wise. Spray paint, I don't know if that counts as a tool, but I will tell you when it comes to painting walls, it makes it so much easier. The finish is so much smoother and it dries more evenly. Sandpaper, paintbrushes, I use something called a scroll saw that's really good for cutting things out, especially if you want to be really precise. It's an excellent tool. How long does it take to complete a diorama? Whew. It depends. For this one, this was completely from scratch. This one took, I would say, up to 2.5, 3 weeks. We ran into a couple issues having to order some special pieces in, so it took a little bit longer than usual. But then there's times where if you get like a do-it-yourself kit and you're building off something that's already pre-cut and you're wanting to kind of make it your own or customize it, that can go much faster. But as for sets that maybe don't even have a diorama set or anything, like just something you're taking outside, I mean, that can take a matter of a few hours or an afternoon. It really depends. But for the most part, a full diorama can take anywhere, from a couple weeks to 3 weeks. What happens to the dioramas after the shoot is complete? Well, I have an entire room upstairs that is completely dedicated to dioramas. I have cats, so I have to keep it behind a closed door, or I will find miniatures hidden all over my house because my cat likes to hide them. Any advice for fans who are interested in starting? I say this every time, and I will always say it, have fun with it. When it comes to advice on stuff, there's so many different things that I could talk about and go through, but really you just gotta start somewhere. It could be small, it could be a small set, maybe even just making a tiny miniature. Like whatever, you feel like you wanna do, whatever like set, any figure you wanna take, you don't have to get super complicated with it. You could do whatever you want, just even taking your figure outside on a walk and taking pictures outside. You don't have to have a bunch of props or miniatures or sets or anything like that. It's about just having fun with taking pictures of toys. It doesn't have to be super complicated at all. As long as you're having fun, that's what's important. Favorite, most memorable diorama you have worked on, and greatest accomplishment? I have made a lot of dioramas in the years that I've been doing this, and it's really hard to pick a favorite, but I'm gonna be biased this time and say this one that I have built is probably my favorite. I put a lot of time and work into it. I made it exactly how I wanted it to be. It's something I've wanted to work on for a very long time, and I'm really happy with how it came out, so it would have to probably be my favorite diorama. As for greatest accomplishment, oh, that's tough. I've done a lot of really cool things in my career and in my life, and it's really hard to pinpoint something that's probably like the greatest accomplishment. I will say one of the coolest things though was having one of my photos up at the booth for Good Smile Company to represent their Nendoroids and how you can take pictures and stuff of the figures. And I think for me that was probably one of the biggest highlights of my life and career. It was the coolest thing. What have you learned since you started making them? I would say the biggest thing that I have learned is you don't need to make the dioramas as big as you think. I started out making them way too massive, took up way too much space, and I realized that especially with the Nendoroid, and you're trying to get, you know, a very cozy shot, you really don't need a massive diorama. Now, sometimes if you want a more open feel, you do, but for the most part, especially with making houses and miniature rooms, the smaller they are, the little bit more cozier they are. I think that was the biggest thing. I really downsized the more I started building dioramas and realizing that I didn't need that much space. So definitely that. Take us through the process of building the diorama. With this one in particular, I've been wanting to build this really awesome cozy log cabin for a long time, and I thought this was the perfect time to do it. I kind of looked at some ideas on Pinterest, on Google, to kind of get an idea of the colors, the build, the style that I was going through. So I ended up sketching it out, kind of figuring out the color pattern, what figure I thought would fit well in it, what miniatures I wanted to use, if there was anything in particular I needed to make for it. That's kind of just the beginning. Nendoroids are kind of an odd scale. They're a little bit between 1/12 and 1/24. They're kind of in a gray area there. So sizing them can be a bit tricky. Oftentimes it's best to have the figure next to you when you're cutting everything out and scaling everything out, just to kind of get a reference. You start kind of marking where you want the walls to be, how tall the windows should be, and also to make sure that the door, you know, fits properly and everything. What I did here is I actually use 1/12 scale dollhouse door, and what you can do that's really nice is if you size it down or cut the bottom off, it fits a Nendoroid really well. Same with the windows. Instead of getting 1/12 scale windows, I actually sized them and cut them out myself. It fits a little bit better, they look a little nicer, and it's a little bit more scaled to the figure. When choosing the materials for the walls and everything, the best thing to use, in my opinion, is wood. Some people like to use foam as it's a bit more forgiving, but for me, I wanted to go with wood simply because it fit the more rustic feel of what I was going for. I used base or basswood, or however you say that. For this, it's a bit sturdier. Some people typically like to use balsa wood. It's a little bit easier to cut. I mean, sometimes you can even just cut it with scissors. The only problem with it is that it is flimsy. It can break really easily. It's better to use on more detailed, tinier pieces, as you can, you know, cut it a little bit more precise. When choosing the colors for this, I wanted a really rich blue. It is often easier to paint stuff using spray paint. If you do use spray paint, please be cautious when using it. A well-ventilated area, be outside. The chemicals can be kind of strong. So with this, I chose this very deep blue, but when I found when I was using this paint that it wasn't quite the blue I was going for, so I had to kind of figure out, okay, how can I make this look more of the feel I'm going for? And I realized I had some leftover home paint from the walls in my house. So I added that over the brighter blue that I originally had, and it really toned it down and made it have a really pretty rustic feel. When choosing the stain color for the wood, I had gone with like a red mahogany color. At first, it was really, really dark, like way too dark than I was wanting. So I kind of went back over it with a paper towel and a little bit of sanding to kind of bring out the red tones a bit more. To kind of really show that rich color without it being way too dark. And I think it turned out really, really pretty. You know, the trial and error doing this. You know, the paint color wasn't quite right, the stain was a little dark, but you know what, you gotta work with what you got. And I think it turned out exactly what I was envisioning, and I'm really, really happy about it. thank you all so much for watching. I so appreciate you guys taking the time to follow me through this diorama journey that we did here today. I really hope that you guys will continue to check out my work, and I hope you guys will be around to see some new stuff that I've been building and new photos. And thank you, Good Smile, for having me do this awesome video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on all of their awesome videos and new figures coming out. Bye, guys!